Welcome back, Dolphins. Hit that like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. Today we're going to be discussing that free agency safety class. And yes, Jevon Holland. We're going to be talking about this a lot. Here's the thing. The safety class is pretty decent in this free agency. And the reason why I'm going to harp on the safety class in free agency is because where we are at in the draft in the first and second round, I understand people want to take Malachi Starks. But my personal opinion, I think for a first round pick, there are so many more players that are, personally, are more needed on the Dolphins and probably could make more of an impact than Malachi. So for that pick at 13, again, like I said, a lot of people have us taken. I wouldn't be disappointed, but I think maybe, Armani Membo, or you get Walter Nolan, or you could get a Kelvin Banks, or, one of these offensive line, defensive linemen. You could even possibly think about maybe James Pierce if he's there. Some of the options that are really going to make an impact on this team, because there's a lot of safeties in this free agency class. And I think with the first two picks, you're obviously Malachi Starks could be the first round, but if you don't pick Malachi Starks the second round, you're not really in a position to be getting a good safety for that spot, and then you don't have a third rounder. So the safeties in the fourth round are going to be, they're going to be box safeties. They're going to be people like that you're taking a swing on. So I think the free agency class for the safeties this year is very important, and might have a surprising opinion to a lot of my guys out there. We'll get into it, but I'm gonna surprise you with something that I think the Dolphins should do. So we're gonna talk number one about Jevon Holland, and I think a lot of people want to just not sign him back, and that there's no option to bring him back. There's no contract, but honestly, what I want to first talk about is that when you think about Jevon Holland, this year was the only year really that he was not good. And, there could be a lot of extenuating circumstances with that. Of course, he was not good this year. I'm not saying by any means that he was good. But with Jevon Holland, most of the years he was looking like he was going to be a solid pick. It's just this year that he didn't play good. Could also have been that, he didn't have a contract and it was his contract year, so he was not trying to put himself in harm's way to not get the contract that, he thought he deserved. The thing is that everybody that's not a Dolphins fan has Jevon Holland as one of the best safeties and one of the best players in this free agency class. I think, fans are finicky, and some people might disagree with me. I think there's a big option that maybe you consider signing Jevon Holland back to a 4-year deal, and giving him the money that, for the most part, when you look at him, we'll take a look at what PFF has. For the most part, he's done pretty well. Like, he did pretty good throughout his tenure with the Dolphins. Like I said, just this last year, he just was not good, and it could be coming off of injuries. It could be, a whole smorgasbord of things. But I think, honestly, you sit there and you see what he can get now. Is he probably going to go all around and try and see the biggest contract that he can get? Of course. But if he wants to stay with the Dolphins, he's an option. You got to consider him because he played pretty decent most of his career. He's a good blitzing safety that can hit hard, and like I said, for the most part, he was a pretty sure tackler for most of his career. It's just this last year he just, kind of fell off, which I'm not really sure why that happened. But when you think about Jevon Holland, just last year we're talking about him getting a contract because of that pick six that he returns at the end of the end zone. He's a very, very skilled top end safety that I just think, it's his career year. He wasn't trying to put himself in harm's way. And, probably his agent or something told him, listen, you're going to get a max contract. If it's not from the Dolphins, don't, you've already proven yourself, So it was one of those things that I just think it's a whole smorgasbord of things that Jevon Holland was going through this year. And, I don't know. we'll see what we do. I don't know if we sign him back, but I think there is an option that maybe we just consider signing Jevon Holland back, giving him a good contract, and seeing what he can do. The next person we're going to talk about is Talanoa Hufanga, which I think his brother is in the draft class. I think he's the Texas safety. I'm not sure. Maybe they're not related, but I'm pretty sure that's his brother. Hufanga is, a San Francisco safety. This last year, obviously, again, just like Jevon Holland, didn't play up to what we knew he could play. But the injuries that we had, and that's something you have to take into consideration. We'll go back to Jevon Holland, actually. You have the Sealer injury for most of the year. You have the pass rushers injuries that, you have no pass rush at all. This kind of takes away from, what Jevon Holland was used to, where he was used to people getting to the quarterback quicker so that he wasn't staying in coverage for, 4 hours. And, that was the problem with this team this year, is that we had no pass rush. So again, just like Jevon Holland, Talanoa Hufanga had the same thing. His defense kind of just was riddled with injuries and didn't have the same defense, and that affects safeties because you have to stay back there for longer, you have to cover for longer, and he didn't have a great year. This is another option, besides Jevon Holland, that I think that the Dolphins should seriously consider, just because of his age as well. 26 years old, where we're at in the draft and the needs that we have. I don't know if you get a top-end safety at the picks that we're at. At the second round, that's where you would be going for, unless you get Malachi Starks, which, again, I don't know if you spend a first-round pick on him. There's so many good players, so many good pass rushers, so many good offensive linemen in that first round that I don't think the safety is the one that you want to use that pick on. Especially with Malachi, he still tends to get a little jumpy when he's back there and he's trying to cover. So, like I said, this is a guy that I would heavily consider. Played with Mike McDaniel. Basically, Mike McDaniel knows him and is he's not going to a similar system, but going to something that he's kind of going to feel comfortable in with the Dolphins and Anthony Weaver's defense. Solid safety, he's good tackler, all of the above. Just like Jevon Holland had a very down year this last year, and it happens. Safety is a weird position because as a corner, you're covering a man on your side, or you're playing in zone. As a middle linebacker, you're run stopping and you're covering in your zone. As a defensive lineman and defensive tackle, you're trying to pass rush and stop the run. With safety, it's like you're kind of just in the back, and when people throw to you is when you make actions. Now, like I said, not making excuses, but the thing is that safety is a lot more volatile of a position where you can have a down year. Things can just not go your way. Again, like I said, Jevon Holland played phenomenal. Talanoa played phenomenal up until this year. Unfortunately, they just didn't have the same team that they were used to, and they kind of, fell off a little bit. But, Hufanga is one of those guys that I think if you sign him, he could possibly be a really good player on this team, for not as expensive as Jevon Holland. Like I said, still in the boat that maybe you sign back Jevon Holland and you continue his tenure and, continue his growth as a safety. Or, this would be the top option that I would want to consider. If you don't bring back Jevon Holland, this would be the guy that I think you definitely go for. Cameron Bynum is next. And Cameron he's a weird one because he's ups and downs. He's very upsy, he's very downsy. He's very athletic, but just I don't know if he's that guy. You know what I'm saying? When you look at him, he's a good tackling safety, and he's pretty decent at understanding what's going on, but he is not like a game wrecker, and like I said, if you're signing someone to what the contract that he desires is, I just wouldn't understand why you wouldn't sign Jevon Holland, because basically the knock on him is essentially what Jevon Holland just had happen this year, where he just isn't a big playmaking safety. he gets interceptions, but so does Jevon Holland. But he's not a game wrecker. He's just a decent safety back there. I think he had like one good year in his career. The rest of them were like meh. So it's like signing someone to this type of contract. As a safety, I'd want you to be the man. I'd want you to be the dude back there. And with Cameron Bynum, he's like, I think it's mostly because he's young that he's going to get that contract. I think he's just one of those guys that is just a safety back there. He can do his thing. He's pretty decent at his job, but he's not going to, go crazy and make a bunch of plays. I could be wrong. He's still a great player. Not someone that's, I'm knocking. But yeah, like I said, just kind of just a decent player. Not great, but not bad. Just a decent player. Justin Reed is another option. See, I like Justin Reed a lot more. Justin Reed definitely played much more, efficiently throughout his career. He's an older guy, so he's got that veteran leadership, but he's still only going to be like 28 coming into this year. It again, where I'm at, it's like, if you're going to sign these guys to this type of contract, why not just sign Jevon Holland? You know what I'm saying? Because, Justin Reed has been a pretty decent guy. He's been a very good corner in Kansas City. And, again, run stuffing guy, really good. He's probably another one besides Hufanga, which if you're going to give a sort of contract like this, Justin Reed would be the guy that I think you give a contract to, because he's definitely just that hard-hitting safety, just comes and lays someone out. I like his style of play. He's a very good player. He's very fun to watch. Just a hard-hitting safety, that old school type of guy. He's just fun to watch. He's going to lay somebody out. Got that big size, all of that. So he's older. He's going to be 28. But again, the age thing, I don't care too much about age, just because you need veteran leadership. You guys have to understand that Mike McDaniel's not coaching for the next 4 years right now. He's coaching for this year. And if this year turns up right, then he's going to start, looking at youth and all that stuff. But this year, he just needs guys. He needs guys to come in that are going to make a definite impact. And Justin Reed is going to be that guy too. He's going to come in and just be that leadership that you need back there. Honestly, in the words of Tyreek Hill, he'll be that dog. He'll be that guy that'll come back there and just start chirping and getting the team together and all that stuff, which you kind of need it on that back end. That's the one knock on Jevon Holland, is that I don't think he is that type of guy. But if you get a Justin Reed, that's a dude that's going to come back there with Jordan Brooks, and Zach Sealer, and start commanding the defense and bringing that leadership that you would want from your safety and bring it back to this. Because even Poyer was just a quiet nothing this year. He's just like a whisper. Just didn't really do anything, didn't really say anything, just took the money. Harrison Smith, good safety, possibly a backup. He's 36. I'm not really going to get too much into Harrison Smith. Great safety throughout his career. Loved watching Harrison Smith when he was on the Vikings his whole entire career. But at this point, he's a one-year rental. He's just going to go to a team that's a contender. So I don't even know if he's probably going to want to fully come here. But again, great safety throughout his whole career. He is 36, probably be 37 by this year. Probably going to retire at the end of this year. Great safety, but on the back end of his career. And I think, a person like this, he's trying to go to a Super Bowl contender. He's trying to go to probably a Chiefs or Eagles or something along those lines. He's going there. I just don't think the Dolphins need to sign a one-year safety. I think we need to build a team. Travion Morig. Another decent safety, 25, 5 interceptions, 18 passes defended over the last 2 seasons. Really turned it up these last 2 seasons. The rest of them were really started finding his ground these last couple seasons. Where is he from? He's TCU. Yeah, TCU. Great size, great size for a safety. You're getting that hard-hitting safety, getting that big safety. He's got hands. He can get the interceptions that you need. This is another pick that I think would make a lot of sense for the Dolphins. Again, you want to bring that safety that's that hard-hitting mentality, that guy that's going to, come down and make a play. And he does that. Got 3 sacks, quarterback hits. He does that, and he's got hands as well. This is a guy that I think will bring, again, with Tyreek Hill saying, he'll bring that dog. He'll bring that, mean mentality. He has that meanness to him, coming out of TCU. And I think it's a dude you can build on. It's a dude you can build on. Again, you're signing a guy to this type of contract. I would say also consider Jevon Holland. But again, another guy Dolphins should take a look at, because he's a dog. He's a dog, and he'll bring that type of mentality to this team. Justin Simmons. We thought we should have him last year. We didn't. He had an okay year. Again, another older safety. He's good. Just another older safety that, I would say if he's available, bring him in as some leadership, have him playing alongside someone. One of the safeties is probably going to be older coming into this year, because we need an older, more veteran safety coming into this year. We can't have, Jordan Poyer sucked. He's on the twilight of his career. So we're kind of going to learn from that. Justin Simmons, he's also one of those that maybe was a product of a defense as well. He's good. He's a very good safety, but I think he's on the back burner. And also, playing in that Denver style, I think he definitely was enhanced by some of that. So Justin Simmons, good pickup on the end of his career. I say if he's available for cheap, come and get him. Have some depth on your roster, but not someone that I'm too crazy about. Jeremy Chin, he's an okay safety. He's all right. He was Redskin. Can't say that. Washington Commanders, and he's all right. He was on the Panthers, and then he's on the Redskins. Just been in safety. Could be a backup. I think he's probably going to get a contract that maybe he's not necessarily worth somewhere else just because he's 26. But yeah, he's someone that if all the voids are filled and he's still available, then Dolphins should go after him. But I don't think this is a game-changing safety that the Dolphins should really, I don't know, really, really go crazy for. He could fill a role. So again, that free safety spot, he could definitely fill a role, but not going to be a game-changing safety. Elijah Molden, he's all right. Not something to go crazy about. I don't know. He's backup. You need some depth at that safety position. Elijah Molden's that guy that you signed for maybe a year or something like that. And, you just have that safe backup that just in case anything happens, he's there. He's not going to command much. He's all right. He's not, again, not game-changing like the first guys that we were talking about, but he can be that dude that just fills that role. You know what I'm saying? So another option, Andre Sisco. Again, he's all right. He's another one that's tricky. Because he's got hands. Andre Sisco's got hands. He gets interceptions. The problem is, again, this last year, actually, I'll take that back. I don't know. Well, the problem is that he had a bad year on a bad team. So it's like he stopped starting on the Jaguars. That's tough. So he's one of those that you're taking a bet on. You're trying to see if he can. Where is he from again? I forgot. Syracuse. Yeah, there you go. He's one of those guys that you're going to take a bet on and see if you can change him up and make him back to what he was in the past couple years, because this last year was atrocious. But also, he was on a crap team, like the team sucked. The team was all in disarray. So, that takes effects on some of these players. And when you consider him, for the most part, he did pretty okay most of his seasons. I would say he's someone that is an interesting name to see if the Dolphins go for him, because if you can flip his scenario around, you got a ball hawking safety in the back end that has good size, good speed. So he's an interesting name to keep out there. I think the last one we'll cover, Julian Blackmon, box safety. I'm gonna be honest with you, anybody from the Indianapolis Colts, yikes! That defense was atrocious. That defense was unreal. The only team that they stopped was the Miami Dolphins. So, pretty decent safety. He's young. That's the one thing about this class, is that most of the safeties are extremely young. He is okay at a lot of things, but he doesn't have that trait that just makes him excel. Like I said, you're just getting a guy. That's what you would be getting with Julian Blackmon. Could be a possibility. We're strapped for cash. You know what I'm saying? Like, the cap space that we have on this team is not great. So he could be a cheap option to see if you can possibly make him into something. But he's just a guy. He's going to be a dude that's just like Poyer, that's just back there, just kind of going through the motions, not really doing anything crazy. But again, it's another shot that you can take on a safety that you're not sure what he can turn out to be. Could possibly be, a great signing again, just like Cisco. But you're not sure. And he could also just be, kind of like a nothing, like a waste of money. And plus, again, on the Colts, I think he was probably the only decent player on that defense. Like, everybody else sucked. You know what I'm saying? So there's something there. He has potential. Again, that's the thing with this safety class. There's so many safeties in this class that they have potential, but you don't know. And Mike McDaniel, the problem is that he's not here for another couple years unless he makes something happen this year. So potential is not really what he's going to be going for. He needs people that are going to come in and make an impression immediately. So someone like this might be tough to make an argument for, but could be a possibility as the backup free safety or someone that you bring in. Maybe we can, because we're going to alleviate cap space. It'll happen. I'll show you guys how it happens. But you create depth with some of those players. Both Andre Cisco and Julian Blackmon are players that have potential, and you can create cap space. You get some guys back there, and you see who wins that role. But yeah, these are going to be the guys that I like. I personally, the ones that I want Dolphins to go for, Justin Reed. I want them to go for Hufanga, and honestly, the biggest one is maybe possibly signing back Jevon Holland. Seeing if maybe he was just trying to hold out for his contract, gets one, and now plays free again, because he's one of the best safeties in this league for most of his career. He was a top 10 safety in this league. But again, like I said, Hufanga and Justin Reed would be the guys. Mo Rig is another one, but those would be the three dudes that I want to sign back. But honestly, my opinion is, if you can sign him back, I wouldn't see why not. Played pretty decent, pretty excellent most of his career. Just had a bad year. Wasn't the worst year that you could possibly have. He went from being a game changer to kind of just a guy, So I don't know. My personal opinion, try and sign back Jevon Holland. You already know what he can do. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be a second year in Anthony Weaver's defense. That's another thing. Keep switching defensive coordinators. You can never really figure out what your thing is, because you go from a defense coordinator that blitzes super heavy to a defense coordinator that doesn't blitz at all to a defense coordinator that has to sometimes blitz because he doesn't have any players. Like, it's just all over the place. And that takes a toll on players. So, like I said, my personal opinion, sign back Jevon Holland. I personally think if you can get Jevon Holland back, get Jevon Holland back. Sign him back to a contract. I understand you're going to be paying a lot. He had one bad year. You know what I'm saying? And again, the bad year wasn't like, oh my goodness, he's horrible. It's just he wasn't like a game changer like he normally was. He was just kind of like just a safety back there. He'd make tackles. But again, when you consider this, the thing is the dude has had 4 different defensive coordinators in his career. You know how hard it is to get used to? Okay, Brian Flores is heavy blitzing. Josh Boyer is a little bit less blitzing, but still blitzing. Then you have Vic Fangio that is just kind of like doesn't really blitz at all. And then you have Anthony Weaver, who kind of blitzes only because he needs to, but he needed to this year because we didn't have much of a pass rush. And then you don't have a pass rush, and you got to learn all these different defenses every single year. It's going to screw you up. It's going to make you, all over the place. So I think having Jevon Holland, having Anthony Weaver for a second year could possibly make a huge difference, with his play. And like I said, it was only 1 year. Most of the years, or not most of the years, besides this year, every single year, Jevon Holland looked like one of the top safeties in the league. It's just this year. And safety's volatile. Safety is all over the place. So my personal opinion is if you can, if there is an option, if he wants to stay here, sign back Jevon Holland, and if not, obviously Hufanga and, Reed are out there as well, but that's my personal opinion, man. I just think he played well, he's young, we need to stop, because again, I'm going to see this, and I bet you I'm going to see this, is someone's going to sign Jevon Holland to a contract, and he's going to play like a stud again. We got to stop doing this as Dolphins, that, we have these players, we develop them, they get good, and then we let them go in free agency. That's not winning football. You know what I'm saying? That's not how you win football, where you just draft players, all your players get good, you get cheap, let them go, and then you sign somebody else. That's not how you win. That's not how you build a franchise. That's what, if you really look at the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, look at their teams. All of them are mostly drafted players that they've re-signed. Some of them they're going to let go, but for the most part, they get their players and they re-sign them. And if they cost too much, then they let them go and they draft a different guy. But for the most part, you can't be letting these guys develop, get good, and then releasing them. My personal opinion. But we'll see what they do. I don't know how much cap space that we have. But yeah. Like I said, let me know down in the comments down below what you think, if you are against it or for it, signing back Jevon Holland. And as always, guys, fins up, baby. Love you all.